Hopefully. Well, hello there, Dr. Tom Rundel. Nice to see you on this beautiful Tuesday.
Beautiful is a subjective experience because I'm in Michigan and it is like 20 some degrees. I wouldn't call that beautiful, but where you are, I bet it is very beautiful.
Well, it's only 56 here in Tampa. So I know 56 is better than 20, but
56. You know, 56 would be okay, but we're going to be 50 and rainy on Christmas. And I'm not sure what to think about that.
we're going
It's
to get
like,
rain too. If I opened up my window right here, though, it would be like, I would be like angelically white because of all the sun. So,
that's awesome.
well, hey, thanks for joining me. We're doing some conversations about leadership and healthy leadership. And one of the things that I love is typically every Sunday morning, you and I get on the phone early as you're driving, and we talk about all different sort of things. And then we talk throughout the week. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about over the last, I don't know, how long, did we ever settle on how long we have known each other?
It was 1996. That's what I think.
96?
1996.
So 1996, 2023 minus 1996.
28.
All right, couple more years, we will experience our 30th celebration.
Oh, we got to do something special.
We should
Like
do
a
something
vow
for 30.
We could do a vow renewal.
Golly.
I, Tom Rundel, take you, Jason Raitz, to be my best friend for here on.
For another 30 years. How old will we be in 30 years? 58, 68. I'll be 78, man.
Wow.
No, I'll be 80 because we got 2 years to go. I'll be 80 years old.
Oh, my gosh. And I'll be, let's see, I'm 40. What am I? I was 78. I'm 45 this year. So in 30 years, I'll be 75 years old.
Jeez.
Yeah, we'll be.
Obviously, math is our strong suit because we pulled out those numbers so fast.
Yeah, I did math beforehand, so.
Who would have ever thought Mountain Jack's would have led us together? The Prime Rib Restaurant.
The Prime Rib Restaurant, and you you needed a ride to work, and because your Mustang wasn't working, you had that 68.
66.
Mustang.
Who would have thought that it would have fell apart?
Yeah, 66 Mustang Fastback, red, right? Red. Oh, yeah. And I had the better vehicle with the 86 Chevette. That was also a hatch, but I like to call it the Fastback.
Well, yours started, so mine did not.
Yeah, I had that thumping stereo system too.
The thing that I loved about the Chevette, though, is I could fit in fine, and watching you squeeze into that Chevette was hilarious.
Yeah, being 6'5", that was a challenge. Yeah, my knees were on the dashboard, but it was only $800, man. I bought that thing right out.
$800 in 1990, whatever that was. That's a lot of money.
$95.
Anyways, we have been friends for a long time. We get to talk about a lot of different things. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot over the almost 30 years of our friendship is leadership and healthy leadership, unhealthy leadership. Actually, one of the things that I wrote in the blog post that kicked off the Lead with People series for Speak with People is I talked about Chef James. Remember Chef James from Mountain Jack's?
Yep. If you look after the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. That's what he said. Yep.
Yes, he taught us lots of wisdom. Some I won't go into because maybe we should keep this as a family channel, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
But I remember when he left, he brought this culture of life and energy and joy. And, everybody was dancing all the time. And he was, and then I don't remember what all happened with him going to a different restaurant and the new person, but it was like night and day. And for me, I've always used that as an illustration of like leading with people, empowering them, trusting them, leading with joy, leading with health, getting them all working together as a cohesive team. And then, the opposite, where the other guy was like, everything had to come through him. He did not empower his staff. There was no joy. There was no, nothing. I'm like, why do people lead that way? I mean, it's just outstanding to me. I still can't figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that switch over, and it was pretty night and day. It was, yeah, that went to this boisterous man who loved to listen to his Motown hits,
Yep.
top volume, to somebody so reserved and quiet and then controlling at the same time.
Right. Right. And I remember that first night, like, the line, we were like a finely tuned orchestra with the old chef, and then the new chef. Everything fell apart. He wanted everything to come through him. I don't know. Let's kick this discussion off by give me your thoughts on what you think. How would you define leading with people? What
Mm.
characteristics, what comes to your mind when you hear that phrase, lead with people?
I think that the term collaboration comes to mind. Um,
Mm.
when you lead at people, then you're the sole holder of the vision. You're
Oh,
going to then, like, how you're going to treat everyone else like a cog in the machine that you are building for your own purposes.
yep.
And while that might be effective to get things done in a short term, collaboration is something that is it leaves a lot less bodies behind the bus, to say,
Mm. Mm.
because you're involving more creativity than yourself,
Yes.
and you're involving more voices. And it doesn't mean that everyone's ideas have to be implemented. You can still be somebody who is focusing, channeling, and driving
Yep.
a vision, but you're allowing other people to contribute and even steer the course a little bit. And
Yes.
when I started doing that in the organization I'm in now, um, it moves us a little bit slower, but we move
Yes.
a lot farther than if I were to just drive it myself. And
Mm. So
yeah,
good.
it's been a lot better. And then I get different perspectives that I would have never thought of on my own,
Yep.
that I need to be able to hear. And I think it's just a richer, fuller, more vibrant way to lead collaboratively.
100%. You are so 100% correct. But here's my pushback. Leading at people is so much easier. It's so
Mhm.
much easier, right? It's my way. This is what I want. I go back to early 2000s. We all worked together, right?
Mhm.
And I think I was the stereotypical leading at guy. I mean, I would walk into the room and you guys would like stop laughing. I wanted everything perfect all the time. Why isn't this perfect? You'd bring me a design you were working on and I'm like, "Seriously?" I'm
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, "I
Oh, yeah.
was there. I was at the lead at. This has got to be perfect. It's got to be my way." But what you're talking about is so much better. So much better.
Yeah.
Collaboration is the key.
And you did make the shift. Like, at first it was, you had a, "This is the way it's gotta be. This is the only way it's gonna be," kind of a mindset, and everyone else had to do it that way. And, I mean, we got a lot of great things done, but I remember being really tired all the time also.
Crying underneath your desk.
I did that once too. Um, but then, I got to be an intern with you and associate with you in some of the stuff you were doing. But then, um, when I came under your leadership at Thrive, it was very collaborative,
Mm.
very, let's make this a culture of staff. Let's make this, something that we're doing together. And it was totally night and day. And yeah, so you made the shift, and now you're teaching people how to do that also. And I think it's
Well,
great.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I think a lot of things went into the shift. I think, just the reality of like, I'm really scaring people. I wanted to succeed so bad, and we had crazy success at what we were doing,
Oh yeah.
crazy success. But yeah, just that reality. And then when we worked together at Thrive, yeah, I mean, I just the bringing the team around together, brainstorming ideas. I always view kind of like, okay, my role as the leader, like, yeah, I want to try to get the ball rolling, but unless it's something that I just, I'm like, no, 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 this is, I know we have to do it this way and only this way, and that's kind of few and far between. I tried to always just get the ball rolling, and then as a team, let's make it better. It doesn't have to be purely my way, and I
Hmm.
think that's where a lot of leaders get hung up and that's they lead at people, because especially I see this a lot in middle managers. You get middle managers who have never overseen any staff, and now all of a sudden they forget that in their job is no longer doing the actual work, the tasks. Now they oversee the people who do those tasks. And so you've got to learn that balance of letting them, how long of the leash are you going to give them? Because everyone's going to fail. All the ideas aren't going to work, but one of the best ways to learn, right? They got to make the decision. One of my last roles where I oversaw staff, I had young staff, like Gen Z staff. So I'm, Mr. Grandpa, old person. And they'd bring up all these ideas, and I had to do everything in me to go, yeah, no, I tried that 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That just, you can't do it. You got to let them do it. And I think that's one of the biggest parts about leading with people, collaborating, letting the team, breathe, have ideas. I think another huge part is trust. You've got to trust your team to do the things that you've asked them to do. And if you don't trust them, then you've got some major work to do,
Yeah. And I think people need to feel the natural consequences of not doing a good job themselves. And
yes,
like I remember this one time you let me do like this drama I had dreamed up in my head for Halloween for our youth ministry. And that thing was so bad. Like everyone at the end was just kind of looking around like, what the hell was that? So bad. I had to feel like the weight. You like, yeah, here you go. Go ahead. You got an idea. And it tanked. It was so bad. I mean, it was so bad. And I never again thought that I was gifted to do drama. And that was something you gave me permission to fail in.
Yep.
And I failed miserably.
Yep.
And, it really wasn't that bad of a thing, when you think of like organizationally.
Yep.
Everyone thought it was really weird, but they were all back the next week. It's like,
yeah.
And it's like, oh, I remember that one time that you like totally sucked doing that thing. I was like, oh yeah. I'll never forget that.
Oh, it's so good. You gotta, yeah. If you have a boss who never lets you fail or never lets you try their own idea, or who always takes your ideas and never gives you credit, that's leading at people to a T. You're in a staff meeting, your boss is like, hey, everybody, have a great idea. We're going to execute it this way. And you're sitting there waiting for them to go, and thank you to Jim Bob for bringing up that idea. And they never do it. They just claim all the credit. Giant leading at people flag.
Yeah, you will not gain trust of people when you steal their ideas, but you will build a wonderful culture of authenticity and honesty and intimacy if you include people in the successes and not just hand them the failures.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's tweetable right there, or Xable, or whatever you call it now.
Twexible.
Hey, real quick, we're going to talk about leadership in another second, but I just want to tell you what I found, and it sits on my bookshelf, but look at this bad boy.
Oh, man.
No Longer Orphans right there. That's our CD, man.
I designed
I don't even have the CD. I just have the case.
Oh, you're not missing the good part.
But I also have this one, the second CD. This one of your design jobs right there.
I did that in Microsoft Publisher, the 2000 version. Oh yeah, I remember that too. And that was the clock.
The clock, yeah.
I got for our wedding gift. That was, yeah, I remember I got that. That was awesome.
Hey, you're still playing in a band. I admire you. That's amazing.
I am. We play some local things around here, and we do some fun cover. We're a cover band. We play covers of.
I love it. But do you play covers of the great Hootie and the Blowfish?
I have not done
That's
a cover.
Shame.
No. So.
Sorry. Right next to me are my vinyls.
Oh yeah, I see them.
Cracked Review right there. Hootie's biggest album.
That thing's pretty awesome.
Okay, let's go back to leadership. Sorry, we strayed there for a second.
Yes.
Okay, give us some advice on if you are in that boat where you're like, okay, I think I'm leaning towards the leading at people. got to be my idea. I don't want to collaborate. I want to do it all my own. I don't trust anybody to help me.
Mhm.
You know, I notice that other, people that I work with are kind of timid around me, kind of walk on eggshells.
Right.
Give that person some steps they can take or some help to go, okay, I gotta change. I gotta stop leading at people. I gotta lead with.
Right. I think that you need to, like, when you have an overblown pride, the other side of the overblown pride is going to be a deep insecurity. And
Mm,
some people display the overblown pride, and some people display the overblown insecurity. And some people will switch back and forth between the two.
yep.
And when you're a leader and you have more spotlight on you than somebody who's not in such a leadership position, then you're more prone to like touch on those two overblown parts of the ego. And
Yep.
you're going to get into psychological understandings of the ego. Like, you can't not have an ego, but what you don't want to have is an overblown ego.
Mm,
You want to have awareness of your ego, and what your ego is, like, an over awareness of other people's perception of you, and then a desire for that to be really good all the time.
ooh,
Like, that part of the ego, if that's in control of your leadership, you're going to do a lot of wounding of
yes.
people. So if you're constantly aware, like over aware of that part of, you know you, and if your self-awareness exceeds your self-compassion, you're going to be really, really insecure about
Mm,
your leadership. And then that's when you're going to pass the buck of failure onto some other people and steal people's successes for your own.
yep.
And if you don't tame the ego and just be aware of its desires, it then doesn't lead the show so much.
Yep.
And it can, when the ego is calmed down, you're more authentic.
Mm,
You know, I do a lot of public presentations, and sometimes things don't go well. When you're
yep.
speaking in front of people and you tell a joke and it doesn't land, instead of being like super insecure, like, oh my God, I suck at joke telling,
Yep.
I'll just make fun of the bad joke itself, and be like,
Yep.
well, that joke landed flat. And then everyone will crack up and we laugh about it together,
Yep.
instead of it's all on me and it's my fault and I suck. It's kind of
Yep.
like, well, that didn't work, guys. And we all laugh about it, move on. I got up and, I'm a pastor. So I got up one Sunday, I gave a message. I've been doing this for 20 some years. It was boring, man. It was so bad. And this was just a couple weeks ago. And I got up the next Sunday, and I got up to speak again. And I was like, hey guys, I just got to apologize. Last week, I bored you to tears. And I'm sorry. It was a tough week. It was a tough passage. And I
Yes.
just owned it in front of them, and
Yep.
everybody laughed. And they're like, hey, no big deal. Let's move on. And yeah, when your ego is not so inflated, you're not so insecure about it, you
Mm.
can lead a lot more authenticity.
That's so good. That's so good. So is a sign of a inflated ego a sign of an unhealthy inner world?
Yeah, it can be. There's a lot. There's so much going on in our inner worlds, and you can dive into, like, get under the hood, of the inner world and get into the psychological aspects of things.
Yep.
Um, and really, it does boil down to that inner world is a lot healthier when you have self-awareness and self-compassion that are
Yep.
in step with each other. If
Yep.
one's out of step with each other, then you're going to be heavy-footed on one side or the other. You're going to experience consequences of that.
Yep.
But if your self-compassion and your self-awareness can be in step with one another,
Mm.
then you'll just have a lot healthier of an expression of yourself in the world, and then your leadership as well.
Oof. So good. It's so good. What's tough, I think, for probably some leaders is they are actually recognized for some of the quote unquote success they have when they're loud and ego driven and I mean that kind of approach to life and leadership and business. And
Mhm.
so, on your own, that kind of, recognizing, wait a minute, I got to do some self-evaluation and make sure my inner world is healthy, because, this outer stuff is just going to,
Yeah.
take over.
Yeah.
It's such a huge balance.
Yeah, and a lot of those leaders that we look up to, like, we don't know them in person
Mm,
most of the time,
yep.
and, they have that hero syndrome. When you meet your heroes, you're like, "Oh, they're
Yes.
not who I thought they were." You get that, "Oh," and, like, just because someone has a lot of driven success to them doesn't mean that they have a life that I would wanna replicate myself,
Yes.
and that's like, you gotta look at the leaders who are also good humans.
Ooh.
And, like, if they're the kind of human that you would wanna be, then, yeah,
Yes.
learn from their leadership styles.
Yep.
But if they are not a good human being and they're, prideful and vengeful and nasty and loud and, all these things, you might not know that on the flip side, when you see them through your screens,
Yep.
but, you hear in our hyper connected world, you can hear rumblings of, what people are like, and it's just, if they're not the kind of human I would want to replicate, then their leadership style is not one that I would want to duplicate.
Yep. Yep.
So,
100%. Ooh, so powerful, man. I can't thank you enough. I just kind of wanted to dive into this a little bit. By the end of the year, we'll have concluded our we call it our mega series, our Lead with People mega series. I think
yeah,
there's been 16 guests. There will be 16 guests. And we know we produce the Leadership Collective. Actually, I'm going to do this. If you've never downloaded the Leadership Collective, you can see it on the screen right now. Tom, you can't see it, but it's actually right above your head. But go to the website that I just put on the screen, speakwithpeople.com/leadwithpeople. You can download the Leadership ebook, and you can only do that till 11:59 p.m. on December 31st. We wanted to have it free for a month and a half. And then the next time you'll be able to get it is we are going to do some work with it for teams where you can come together and do some teamwork together to dive into, hey, is our leadership healthy or not healthy as an organization, as a culture, all that kind of stuff. So, Tom,
mm,
appreciate almost 30 years. We'll have to start planning out that 30-year celebration party.
yep, we
And
are gonna do it.
maybe we'll get Jim there. Maybe we can get one of the old drummers, and
And a couple of them.
we could do a little NLO reunion.
Oh yeah, and we'll have to cover a Hootie song just for you.
We'll cover the Hootie song. I don't know which one because they're all absolute gold. So
Mm.
we'll figure it out.
All right, man. Well, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening. Appreciate it. Thanks again for going and grabbing the free ebook, and check out the next conversation on the YouTube channel. Thanks so much.